Hello, welcome back to our weekly portion review. This week we will be focusing on the portion of Vayeshev, and Jacob sat. This is the famous portion that is going to review and discuss the escapades of Joseph and his brothers, the whole attack on Joseph, him making his way down to Egypt. Really, this is the beginning of how the Israelites find themselves in servitude eventually. So fascinating few portions ahead of us. But as always, we're going to focus on a specific element. And while many people have spoken about the dreams and the interpretations of Joseph's dreams, I want to go back and focus on one of the earlier dreams, which is the dream he has with regards to his father and siblings and mother, presumably bowing down to him, and them being the moon and the sun and the celestial dream. And so, on one hand, Jacob, when he hears this, he uses this as an argument, and he tells them, in the verse he says, "Shall your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow to you on the ground?" Right? And in a certain sense, this is like evidence of him dismissing Joseph's dream. And we know that Joseph's mother, Rachel, she already passed away earlier on in the earlier portion, and this makes it impossible for her to bow to him, and then that would mean that this dream is seemingly invalid. On the other hand, it's also written, his father kept the matter in mind, right? So now our commentary, Rashi explains that he was really, he awaited and anticipated it would come to pass. Like he knows that at some point this is actually going to happen. Right, so this, on the flip side, this means that Jacob knew that the dream was true and was destined to be fulfilled. Right, so how are we interpreting this dream then? It could be that he sees that the moon is not actually referencing Rachel. Right, if we thought the sun is Jacob and the moon is Rachel, if Jacob still thinks it makes sense, then it can't be that Rachel is the moon. Now we have a teaching that Jacob understood that he himself was both the sun and the moon. And there's a commentary also saying he was surprised that his son was aware of such a deep secret, that his father himself was also the sun. Now, what does that mean? He was the moon because Israel, Jacob under his name Israel, really counts according to the lunar calendar and really adapts a passive stance towards the world. Right? We are definitely also in our Jacob name, and even in a certain sense in our Israel name, we are more focused inwards on our own nation. But he's also the son, right? He gained, if we recall, Esau's strength, right, through the birthright, and he got the blessing also. And at the end, he also gets the struggle from the angel in Peniel, where also there the verse tells us that the sun rose for him after he previously was shining for Esau. Now, at the end of that struggle, the sun is shining for Jacob. And as we also know, Jacob ultimately bows to Joseph at the end of his life, right? The verses talk about how he's sitting up on his bed, but it's an act of respect, of showing that he recognized that Joseph was great. And really, since then, the Jewish calendar has been both a solar and a lunar reading and counting, and we're incorporating both of these ideas of submission to God and also an active national role with a political engagement as well. Political being, again, associated, not the political system we have today, but rather a divine political system. Now, the people of Israel are destined ultimately to shine, right? As God tells us, I have given you as a covenant to the people, a light to the nations. However, opinions really differ on the correct way to achieve these lofty goals, as we call it, tikkun olam, of world rectification. Now, Joseph specifically believed that the right approach was to engage with the general human culture and take positions of influence among the nations of the world. Right? And according to this view, exile would have been the preferred arena for the nation's activity, right? Because that's the best place where I could affect the other nations of the world. And that would be the reason that even in his youth, Joseph is dreaming about his family as alumot, as sheaves binding in the field. And he's using that so we could be feeding the whole world. And he also sees himself as him and his family as the stars illuminating the sky. And that's also sort of illuminating the darkness of exile for the whole world. Now, what he dreamed, what Joseph dreamed and did come to pass ultimately, right? Joseph does become the provider, working with his brothers to ultimately rectify the world through Egypt. Now, this path is suited for very specific, singular, righteous people like Joseph. And again, the commentaries tell us that Joseph was in Egypt, he remained righteous, right? We call him Yosef HaTzadik, Joseph the righteous, because he was a very particular individual that could pull this off. And really, that's what the commentary is trying to tell us. However, most people in the depth of Egyptian culture or foreign culture won't necessarily survive. And this, like we said, this path is not really suited also for a nation as a whole, more for an individual. And as history has shown, that despite the good that Israel brings to the nation through their own talents, eventually, even in Egypt, a new king arose that did not know Joseph, right? And we have to recognize that our work first starts within us, then within as individuals, within ourselves as a nation, and only then, when we could actually create unity amongst ourselves, can we hopefully illuminate the skies and be a positive force to the world. Shabbat shalom, and take care.